Or better yet, in this particular deal, it was a whole fruit basket. Because, as Gary said, we really went from investor to investor to investor. It was path A, path B, path C, path D, blueberries, strawberries, grapes, apples, oranges. I mean, we really went at every single possible way to try to make this deal work. And I take that and correlate it back to the concept that we were talking about earlier of just being prepared to go down path A, path B, all the different ways in order to get something done. And in the end, if you be creative and you're willing to take the risk of going in all the different directions, then ultimately your life will be filled with a basket of fruit or something like that. I had a great line, but I forget exactly what it was. Your life will be a basket of fruit. I think it's a little better, but anyway. Next.
I got it. The next theme we'd like to get across is create great partnerships throughout your career. It would be very helpful. No need to face fear alone. Very important to build great relationships. You know, when I was a sophomore or junior here in the hotel school, I came home one summer, and I was kind of taking business law and learning about the business. And I asked my father, "How was your partnership agreement structured with your partners in Dutchess?" He said, "What partnership agreement?" I said, "Well, do you have a stockholders agreement?" "No, it's all on a handshake." And it's true, it was all on a handshake. And I was very frustrated because here I was a young kid in college and learning all these new things. My father had a deal on a handshake. His whole life was on a business based on a handshake. He said, "Look, get into business with partners you trust, and you don't need the documents." And it was a lesson for me. And I was fortunate enough to recreate that years later with Prudential. You know, we had an executed management agreement and a partnership agreement. And every time we did a deal, we changed the numbers and changed the hotel name. But because we trusted each other, many times we would sign the documents after we closed. And we emulated essentially what my father had. Find partners you trust, and it's a big advantage to your career. If you could for a second, if everyone could just look around the room, actually not even looking around the room, if you could each look to the person on your left, and then take a second and look to the person on your right, and then look forward and look back. These are your classmates. You have a real opportunity to create relationships with your classmates over 4 years. But I can guarantee you, after 25 years of experience, these are relationships you'll use throughout your career. It's a great student body here. Many of you will be in the hotel business. Many of you will be in businesses ancillary to the hotel business. It's a great time to create relationships with your classmates that you'll use throughout your career. Build them, and I assure you they'll last for a lifetime.
And just to follow up on that point, it's interesting that, you know, besides Gary and I, two of the top. Oh, are you moving me around, bro?
Go ahead.
Where'd you go?
Right. What you want?
Yeah.
Okay.
Back to the relationships, though, for 2 seconds. I mean, two of the senior executives at HEI now are classmates of mine and Gary's back at school. Two of the most senior deal people in our organization. And as Gary is saying, you go back to different places at the different hotel companies where we're doing business today, Marriott, Hilton, Starwood. Many of the people that we're doing business with now are people who are our classmates, you know, back in the time of the Cornell Hotel School. So that really is a very
more than you can
valid point.
More than you can imagine. Top people at Marriott, the top people at Hilton, the top people at Starwood. And our top team at HEI is probably 3/4 out of the hotel school at Cornell, and many of them we knew back when we were here.
So we're just going to kind of walk through. So far we've kind of gone through the given some highlights of our career. This bit sort of just shows the chronology of what took place. You know, it shows the binoculars and the bubblegum story back here. We then, you know, we show some ups and downs here because definitely during those years it was tough. We had a lot of tough times to try to figure out how to make it all work. And you know, when we started HEI in '85, then from '85 to '97, that's when we sold the company there. We then restarted HEI 2 just after 9/11 in 2002. We did the big deal that we talked about where we bought 14 hotels from Starwood. That was clearly a very important event in our career that we were able to acquire such a big group when we were so small at the time. We then did something really quite different, which is where up until this point in time, whenever we bought a hotel, we would have to individually go out to an investor in order to raise money. And in some cases it was prudential, in some cases it was a limited partnership, in some cases it was foreign money, but we always had different investors each time we went out to buy a hotel, and we would have to go out, try to get a hotel under contract, and then find an investor, which was very difficult. And then in 2004, we started our first fund, and then in 2000, which we've now fully spent, and we've now just finished raising our second fund just recently. But being in the fund business is completely different than the way we were before, and Gary's going to take a few minutes to explain that aspect.
You can see here that these are our investors in our first fund and our second fund. And as you'll notice, Cornell is not there, but we hope to get Cornell into our next fund. But our first fund, as it shows there, was $275 million. And that was a fork in the road for us. And again, feel the fear and go for it. This was in the fall of 2003. We had just bought 14 hotels from Starwood. We had 2 others that we had bought earlier. We bought 5 more hotels in the fall of that year from Host Marriott. And we were going pretty well. And this was now the meat of the cycle of buying hotels. 2004 was going to be a great year buying hotels. And we could have continued on the path we were. But we also felt there was an opportunity to raise our own fund, which is really a chance to go from the minor leagues to the major leagues. So when you have our own fund, every time we would find a hotel that we wanted to buy now, we wouldn't have to go out and find the money or find another real estate fund to team up with. We had the opportunity to have our own fund and have everything vertically integrated. And it was a big risk because we then were going to have to, everyone was telling us it was going to take a year to go out and raise a fund. We did a lot of research. I networked. I talked to a lot of folks over a period of a month or 6 weeks. And the advice I kept getting was, if you have your own fund, you're going to love it, but it is going to take a year, and you will not be able to buy anything during that year. You're going to have to dedicate your company exclusively to raising money. And so we decided, long story short, we decided to go after the fund business. We put aside acquiring hotels, and we were very fortunate. We ended up hooking up with going after pension funds, which normally take a year, or endowments. We ended up hooking up with Yale. They loved the concept, and they went after it very quickly. We ended up negotiating a letter of intent with Yale in about 8 weeks. Harvard came right after, and once Yale and Harvard were in, we were able to close our first fund in 5 months versus a year. We were very successful investing that money over a period of a couple of years. We went back to the same investors. We added 2 new investors, Brown and Chicago, and we literally raised a second fund with most of the same investors investing more money in literally about 2 or 3 weeks. It was that easy. And once you perform, you create a track record, it's very easy to go on from there. Continuing on, just a quick snapshot of HEI. In the upper left is the Park Hyatt in San Francisco. We just bought that recently. That was a milestone for us. It was the largest hotel we ever bought. It was a $135 million transaction. Up till that point in time, the largest was 100, and before that, we had a lot of 75s. And most of our hotels are 50 million to 75 million. So a big deal for us. Center City, San Francisco, very high-profile asset. Big move for our company. The bottom left is the Algonquin in New York, the oldest working hotel in Manhattan, and for us also a big milestone because it was our first move into Manhattan. Upper right, what you can see on the left is an office building, and the bottom right is a historic bank building. And what we're doing now, it's under renovation right now. We're converting that to a Westin hotel. It's in the financial district, right in the middle of it, with a 100% location in Minneapolis. On the bottom right is a new vision. Our vision up till now, our core product is 200 to 500 room, full-service, first-class hotels. We've now decided to enter the development business. And we're entering with a beginning product of a loft, Starwood's new selected service product, geared to compete with Courtyards and Hilton Garden Inns. But like W, which competes against full-service Marriotts and Hiltons and Sheratons, et cetera, and W has been very successful, the loft we expect to be very successful against Hiltons and Marriotts, having that young, hip type of program. It's a program we have 3 sites now have been approved under development. We expect to begin construction on our first one in about 3 months.